And as he went out the door, his parachute caught on the door. The airplane's spinning down, and he's on the outside of the airplane, hooked on, banging against the side of the airplane.
Oh my gosh.
He rode it almost all the way down, and he broke loose just before the plane hit the ground. When they found him, he was buried halfway in the ground, clear up to his waist, upside down. He had gone right into the ground.
Did he survive it? No.
No.
I was wishful thinking there.
Now, there was one, though, that you told me that he was caught and he did free himself. Who was that? You said he finally ripped it and kicked himself loose. The other two had gone out?
Yeah. I think that was Jimmy Scoff. His chute caught on the hinge on the door or something, and he was banging, but he finally kicked loose.
And he did land, okay, but did
Yeah,
he break some bones? But he got down, okay.
He died later.
Yeah. Yeah, you said that he had his couple other people jump, and then he stayed last with the plane.
Yeah.
But you said the door was so heavy.
Well, against that slipstream, he couldn't push it open by himself. He couldn't hold it open enough to get the chute out the door.
And so he went out, but then the chute didn't quite make it when it slammed on the chute. God, that's got to be a scary feeling when you're up there with the plane going down.
Yeah.
But he actually did make it through that, but he got killed later. There was another accident later, wasn't there, with him? He crashed, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dad used to have to go and report on the crashes, investigate.
Well, I was accident investigation officer. My job was to dig the bodies out of the wreckages.
Jeez. I never
the worst
knew
job
that you
ever.
had to do that. I never knew you had to do that.
Somebody had to recover them.
Yeah.
I had to recover the dog tags.
Yeah, there probably sometimes wasn't much left of the bodies once it burned.
So sometimes we didn't find anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's too bad you got stuck with that job.
Yeah.
Well, one day I was leading a flight of 5 airplanes, and I was coming in over Kunming, China, and that was to be my terminus. So I called the tower and asked for a letdown, and they gave me permission to let down. Since I was the first plane in the lead, I made the first lowering. I was at about 16,000 feet when I come over the station. When I got down to 11,000 feet, suddenly my plane was just swamped with burning bits of metal and stuff. I looked out the window, and here was a wing fluttering down on one side. On the other side was the rest of the airplane with the bodies in it going down. That was one of the jobs I had to dig out. It hit and burned.
Mm-hmm.
And
Was that Loomis?
yeah.
Charlie. That was the one where you said to, was it your somebody co-pilot? You said that's Loomis. You knew for some reason.
No, I just knew it was him when I.
But that's not logical. There's no
Yeah,
logic that could have
no.
told you that, because you didn't know who was above you.
No, there were 4 other planes above me. I didn't know which one it was.
But you said to your co-pilot,
And
that's
this was
Loomis.
at night, in the middle of the night.
Right.
I couldn't even see him till I get down low, until I saw this wing flutter by. And something just told me that was Tom Loomis.
And you told the person next to you that was Tom Lewis. It just came right out of your mouth, he said. And you, yeah,
I don't know why.
nobody knew why. But you, yeah, and it turned out to be correct. Those are things that we'll never understand. Because you're right, that could have been anybody. So you had to investigate that one? Yeah. That's hard when it's your friends.
There wasn't a heck of a lot to investigate, because when the plane hit, of course, it was full of gasoline and exploded and burned up.
Yeah.
About all I could find were little pieces of flesh here and there. But
Yeah. Yeah.
There were 5 people on the airplane, and 4 of them were Chinese. And Tom was the only white man on the plane. He was flying it. Tom had red hair, and I was digging out the pieces of flesh here and there. I came one little chunk of flesh that had red hair on it, so I knew it was Tom's. That was the only thing I had to identify him after the wreck.
Did you send those, you didn't, because there was no way to send that back home,
Oh, no.
you would just bury it there with
Yeah, they did.
a
They generally,
military
just,
type?
if they could get to them, they generally just dug the graves right beside the airplane and used that as a monument for them.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Hmm. So as you recovered body parts, you just would dig the grave and...
Well, no, the first thing we did when an accident, we'd lay out a blanket for the number. We knew how many men would be on the plane. We'd have the schedule. If you had just 3, or if you had 4 or 5, you'd lay out individual blankets. And as you identified any piece of any individual, you laid it on that blanket. So when you got through, you had the remains segregated.
As best you could.
And if you could find their dog tags, you had that with it.
Mm-hmm. And those would have been sent back to the families, I presume. Yeah. Hmm. Did you ever write the families?
No, I talked to 1 or 2 of them after the war.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I would have no way of talking to them because I had no idea where they lived.
Yeah, that's true. Hmm. Yeah, that couldn't be a pleasant... What was the most enjoyable thing if that was probably the worst thing, or one of the worst things you did, what were some of the enjoyable things? Just the camaraderie, the pulling pranks?
Oh, yeah. And the scenery was wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We were flying over canyons there on the Yangtze River and on the Mekong. Those canyons would have made the Grand Canyon look like a little ditch. Grand Canyon is 5,000 feet deep. Those canyons were 10,000.
And I've seen the Grand Canyon, and it's overwhelming when you look down. I mean, a lot of times you can't even see the bottom. And
Well, that saved
That's
my
a lot.
neck one time. It was getting towards dark, and I was flying west into the sunset. The sky was still pink in the west, but it was black in the east, and I saw 2 Japanese planes ahead of me. Well, I lost track of them because one of them went each way.
Oh gosh.
A few minutes later, here they came, one from each side coming after me. Well, fortunately, I was right over the Mekong River Canyon. It's about 10,000 feet deep. I just shoved the nose down and dove into the canyon. It was blacker than Dickens down there. But when I got down to the water, there was a lot of rapids in it. And there'd be a little white water on the rapids. So I could just fly from one white spot to another. I flew that way for, seemed like an hour, probably 10 minutes.
so you
Well, I
lost
knew
it.
they couldn't see me anymore because I had flown miles away. I pulled up and went home.
Oh my gosh.
That's crazy. You're probably just going, where'd he go? You know, we had him between us. We know we did.
Oh man.
No, I'm sure they figured out that's what you did, but there's nothing they could do. They
Well,
couldn't follow you.
They didn't want to follow me down there.
No, no. But you didn't have any choice but to do that, because if you would have stayed up, you would have been shot down. Hmm. That's a pretty, those canyon walls, I mean, you couldn't see the walls though, right?
Gosh.
Well, no, not during the night, but I stayed right over the river. I just went from